Hello, this is Edward. Before we get started with this episode, a little bit of housekeeping. Wanted to let you know that this episode was originally recorded in the fall of 2024. And since the recording, Todd's book, Calico Kids Returns, has been released and has been getting fantastic reviews. You should check it out at his website at todddowning.com. This is pretty much one straight recording, which kind of cuts off at the end because Todd and I have known each other for more than 40 years, and we continued to talk for quite a while after we were done with the episode. So you might find it end a bit abruptly, but that was on purpose because there was no better way to end the episode than to just cut right where we did. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience, and enjoy the episode. From Los Angeles, California, the entertainment capital of the world, it's the 80s Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Havens. Thank you for listening today. Tonight's guest needs no introduction. If the term Renaissance Man had not been invented yet, someone would have coined it for him. Dos Equis should have hired him to play the most interesting man in the world, because he is the most interesting man in the world. When God grows up, she wants to be him. He has written and designed over 50 role-playing titles, including Airship Daedalus, Aeroflight, Grimworld, and the official Red Dwarf RPG for Deep 7 Press, as well as authoring works for stage, screen, comics, and short-form, long-form, interactive, and narrative audio dramas in a career spanning more than 3 decades. He was one half of the Bay Area-based late 80s, early 90s darkwave band And Tears Fell, and I've been proud to call him a friend for more than 40 years. Welcome to the show, Todd Downing. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Edward.
So,
how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to talk to you again after all these years. Like 10 years since I saw you up in Seattle.
Up in Seattle, that's right. We had dinner with you and your lovely wife.
And you and your lovely wife. And we're still married, which is a good thing.
It's good to know we married up.
I can't believe how up I married. An explanation to the listeners. Today's episode is going to be Todd talking about his 5 favorite fantasy movies of the 1980s. And so everyone is aware he has not shared his list with me. I have no idea. I have an idea of which movies he's going to pick, at least 3 of them. I'm pretty certain of, but we're just going to talk about fantasy movies of the 80s for a little bit. Todd, I've known since high school. In the 1980s, we both went to Aptos High. We really bonded between drama class, and I still can't believe we had this in the 80s at a public high school science fiction literature class.
Sci-fi lit. That was such an amazing class.
It was. That was where I got introduced to Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
Who started off in sci-fi and went off in some really fantastic directions. Who's the one author that you've discovered because of that class?
Because of that class, I was already in junior high. I was already reading a lot of Bradbury, and he continues to be my favorite sci-fi author of all time. I never got into the more technical side, the Asimov kind of stuff. That was a little bit dry for me. And again, that's, just your mileage may vary. A lot of people absolutely love Asimov, and he deservedly has a place in the pantheon. But, it's just stuff like that. Probably I got into James Herbert, just the first Dune book right around that time.
Right.
Because I hadn't read it before then.
And then the movie was coming out right then, too.
Yeah, in 84. That was right after I moved. Actually, I got a job as an usher at an AMC movie theater, a multiplex in Mountain View, California.
Mm-hmm.
And we got an advanced screening of the David Lynch Dune film before it came out. So that was kind of a cool geek cred at the time.
Yeah. So before we get started, as I introduced you, I mentioned that you're an author. And you have a new book coming out in October, Return of the Calico Kids. If I remember right, it's part 2 of the series.
Yeah, and it's probably not a series. This is probably just the last book. It's a two-parter, basically. The first one takes place in 1982. It's a small riverside community in southwestern Oregon, right on the Rogue River. And basically, I kind of took a lot of common experiences of that a lot of kids had at that time. A lot of Gen X kids, riding their bikes everywhere and being generally unsupervised and getting into loads of trouble. And just kind of lifted our community of Aptos, California, and kind of put it on the north bank of the Rogue River in Oregon. And it's part supernatural, part sci-fi, adventure, coming of age, nostalgic. A group of outcast friends who are just kind of found family and trying to navigate through adolescence. So what? It's cool.
One of the things I love about the book, the second book that you just introduced, is the cover. It looks like a VHS tape. It even has, a PG-13 rating on it as if it's a movie, and it looks like
Yes.
the VHS tape is coming out a tiny bit. How do you decide the covers of your books when you do something like that with the Return of the Calico Kids?
Well, Calico Kids, the first book, actually has that same kind of design. It's more of a neon green, with the sunset, the vibrant gradient logo.
Right.
But it's drawn from that experience of being at loose ends with your buddies and, oh, what are we going to do? Well, before our parents come home from work.
Right.
Well, let's pop a VHS in and watch a movie, one of our favorite movies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I see the cover, and it reminds me of magnetic video covers from the early 80s.
Exactly. That's exactly what the vibe I was going for. And I get a lot of comments on it. There's people are picking up the book, and the dimensions of the paperback are very close to a VHS cassette.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a like 5x8, and it's roughly the right width, the spine width. So it works well as a gimmick, as a motif.
Hey, anything to get your book to be noticed in the bookstores, right?
Exactly. That plus the vibrant kind of 80s title and graphics to it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about fantasy movies of the 80s.
Yes.
Partially inspired by a video that you and I made for science fiction literature class 40-something years ago. So, so go ahead and hit me with your first favorite fantasy movie of the 1980s.
Okay, so first of all, just to kind of clear the decks here, the criteria that I was going on, I weighted on artistic merit as well as watchability, quotability, entertainment factor, because you can have an empirically beautiful motion picture and you might not have the rewatch factor, right? There can be some relatively, low budget, low effort, crappy films that you absolutely love, and they get, instilled in your vernacular, that you and your friends can have entire conversations in dialogue from a particular film.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I was approaching this. And I got to say, it was really hard to pare it down from like a top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can just kind of name off what are like in the bottom 5 of my top 10, and I won't go into detail on them.
The honorable mentions, please go ahead.
The honorable mentions. Okay. So number 10, I have Willow.
Okay.
Ron Howard's 1988, Val Kilmer, Warwick Davis, Gene Marsh. Number 9, The Beastmaster from 1982.
Okay. Albert
Number 8, what's that?
I said Albert Pyun, right?
Yep.
It's been decades since I've seen it, but it was stupid fun.
Yes.
And that's sometimes all you want from a fantasy movie. Stupid fun.
Exactly. No, it was directed by Don Coscarelli. He did
Oh, it was?
as
I'm thinking of a different movie. My apologies.
right. No. And Bubba Hotep, John dies at the end, And of course, Tanya Roberts, I mean, as a 14-year-old boy at that time, I saw that film multiple times in the theater because we didn't have a VHS at the moment. Right. And I wanted to get my fill of Tanya Roberts and of a PG. And it was PG. So yes, it wasn't a PG-13. Yep. Of course, I had an older buddy who was 9 years my senior, and he would regularly get me into rated R films at the time.
Yeah, Randy was a good guy.
We all know what I'm talking about. Okay, number 8, Labyrinth, 1986. Jim Henson, David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly.
Yep.
A classic.
I can't wait to introduce my daughter to it.
Excellent. Number 7, The Dark Crystal, 1982.
I'm surprised that's not in your top 5, to be honest.
I am too, except when I get to the top 5, you realize that a lot of them are more weighed on the rewatch quotability factor.
Right.
It is obviously top 10 and is deservedly in the top 10. 1982, let me just a quick aside. Holy shit. What a year.
Right.
For genre films.
Right.
Yeah. Number 6, Legends from 1985.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically the director's cut with the Jerry Goldsmith score, even though that was not the one to be released in the US.
Right.
Ridley Scott, Tim Curry, Mia Sara, and Tom Cruise, I can take or leave. But I mean, it was shot by Alex Thompson, who did Excalibur, Electric Dreams, and Labyrinth.
Right.
The special effects makeup was the legendary Rob Bottin from, The Howling and The Thing and RoboCop and Total Recall. It's just amazing craftsmanship, and you can freeze frame any shot in that film and frame it and put it on your wall.
No, it's a fantastic, beautiful movie that unfortunately we didn't get to see for 20 years the way it should have been.
Yeah, exactly. So that takes care of the honorable mentions. My top 5, you want me to work down from 5?
Yeah, let's work down from 5. Number 5.
I have Highlander, 1986.
Mm-hmm.
I consider that a fantasy film.
No, it totally is.
Yeah. Directed by Russell Mulcahy, who was like an 80s music video god at the time. Right? Why the film looks like a music video.
And sounds like a music video.
Music by Queen, obviously. Starring Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, Clancy Brown, John Polito, James Cosmo.
No, it's got a stellar cast.
Yeah. Co-written by Gregory Wyden, who also wrote the Prophecy franchise and Backdraft. And shot by Jerry Fisher, who did Victory, one of my favorite sports movies of all time.
I did an episode of last year.
Yeah. Wolfen, Exorcist 3. I mean, it's an amazing, again, saw it multiple times in the theater. At that point, 86, I was in my first year in college. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time in the movie theater and writing reviews for the Foothill Sentinel newspaper.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen it, and it's one that I know I need to revisit at some point. But I just remember the visuals being so striking, especially when, they're out in the Highlands, and it's just the way that they shot the film.
The transitions are amazing.
Yeah.
Like very artistically staged transitions where you'll pan across, some vista, and then suddenly you're in the Highlands because you're coming out from behind a rock or something, just really, really gorgeously made. I mean, it's not a perfect film. It's kind of goofy. In fact, in some places, it's real goofy, but it's just fun. It's a fun popcorn movie, and is well made.
I mean, Sean Connery trying a Spanish accent.
Oh God,
is worth the price of admission alone, and then to see him in these little proto pirate outfits.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean
the entertainment factor, the unintentional entertainment factor is off the charts on it. but also the fight sequences are amazing. The Kurgan's costuming is fantastic, but it's still entertaining regardless. But it's got this duality of it's high camp and high drama in like almost a perfect mix.
Exactly. And there's a supernatural aspect to it. And you brought up the accents, and I need to take a quick aside. Casting a French actor as a Scotsman trying to do a Scottish accent opposite a Scotsman playing an Egyptian Spaniard doing a Spanish accent. So meta. It's Inception right there.
Yeah.
So many layers. Moving on.
Sure.
Number 4, Excalibur, 1981.
I knew it.
John Boorman, of course, delivering Zardoz, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, he had just come off of. Got a great British cast: Nigel Terry, Helen Mirren, Nicole Williamson, Gabriel Byrne, Liam Neeson, again, really well for him. Patrick Stewart, Kieran Hines, Nicholas Clay, Shuri Lungi. I mean, it's just...
It's one of the best casts of a movie from the early 80s. And just everything about Boorman was such a great filmmaker, and the way that the whole film is put together with the effects and the
Yes.
and just the costumes, and it feels like somebody traveled back in time to Arthurian days and just made a movie.
Right. And it looks like, so it's based more on the romantic idea of Arthur and the legends,
Right.
more so than any kind of historical look at the character, because it's really an amalgam of a character, right? If you look at the legends and things like that, so it's almost like you took Sir Thomas Mallory's Le Morte d'Arthur and put it on the screen,
Right?
Because they're wearing armor that is not appropriate to a real Arthurian time period and that kind of thing, but it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it's almost like a Wagnerian opera, right? It's in fact, the presentation, the entire presentation, score and all, they use Wagner music cues. They use Karl Orff, Carmina Burana. It's very operatic. The presentation, the acting style is over the top. Everybody's shouting. It's just, but it was incredibly quotable. Like I have friends who have seen it as many times as I have, and we can have entire conversations in Excalibur dialogue. That's how nerdy we are.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned, of course, years and years and years later, is that Liam Neeson and Helen Mirren were together for like 5 years. While
During that time, I know, it's crazy.
And it's just like that's like of course he wasn't famous yet. He wouldn't be famous for years and years and years. But that's a power couple. And
it is.
And it's like nothing against Taylor Hackford. He's a fine director, but it's Liam Neeson, man.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Liam Neeson, I don't think, like, he was still doing supporting roles well into the later part of the decade. Like Darkman was 88.
Dark's in 90. That Darkman was 90. And the reason
but he was in The Bounty in 84.
Right. And he was in Suspect with Cher in 87.
Right.
He was the homeless suspect.
Oh, Hull was 82. I was thinking he did another sci-fi fantasy film in the early 80s, and that was Crawl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the reason I remember Darkman was in 1990. If I can veer off for just a second, when we used to do the screenings for Oingo Boingo, we'd trade backstage passes for. The last time I did it for them before I moved back to Los Angeles was in 1990, because I moved to a few months after that. And Danny Elfman asked if he could use the phone in the manager's office because he wanted to call Sam Raimi to find out how the Darkman cast and crew screening went.
Oh, wow.
And then the kicker was, if I get a hold of him, do you want to talk to him? And it's like, I'm what, 22 at the time? Do I want to talk to Sam Raimi?
Yeah, you agree.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess he left a message on the on his machine and said, I guess he's still at the after party. because even though it was like 1 a.m. and we should be watching whatever we were watching that night after the concert, but yeah, just like, do I want to talk to Sam Raimi? Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, but it didn't happen, so it's just a good story.
Yeah. No, it's a good one to have in your pocket.
Yeah, but yeah, but just the man's career and how he could, he's like 14th build in Excalibur, but then you see him, and it's just like, how did he not become a star much quicker?
Out of the gate, right? Because I mean, the stuff that they gave me, he was freaking Sir Gawain in Excalibur, and I mean, there's a whole subplot of him accusing Guinevere of adultery, and what, having to have the trial by combat, and the whole reason that Percival gets knighted. So yeah, he's got some stuff to chew on there, and he's actually among the lesser kind of how do I want to say this? I mean, these are all amazing British actors and Irish actors who were basically let off the leash by Boorman, and it's a very operatic delivery that they all have. But somehow Neeson manages to pull it back enough so that it's right at the top, but it's not completely over the top, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So we moving on to number 3. I have The Princess Bride, 1987. Rob Reiner. It's a classic. It's always on TV now. Carrie Elwes, Mandy Patinkin, Robin Wright, Andre the Giant, Christopher Guest, Chris Sarandon, Wallace Shawn, Peter Falk, Fred Savage, Peter Cook, Carl Kane. It goes on and on and on. Bill Hader still, yeah. Written by William Goldman, adapted from his own novel, right? Shot by Adrian Biddle, who did Aliens, Willow, Thelma and Louise, The Mummy, 1999's version. The only thing with The Princess Bride, and as much of a feel-good movie as it is, and I can quote it front to back, I've never been a fan of the synthy Mark Knopfler score. It sounds like a web series, like a fantasy web series. It's kind of a low budget kind of score.
Yeah, it sounds like it should be for a canon film instead of a Rob Reiner film.
Not knocking Mark Knopfler. I think it was kind of coming out of his comfort zone with Dire Straits, but I mean, that's, for me, that's the only drawback, and it's a small criticism.
Oh yeah, I can tell you the last time I saw Princess Bride, they actually, here in Los Angeles now, they're starting to show movies at the Hollywood Bowl.
That's fantastic.
And so a couple years ago, I can't remember if it was pre-pandemic or after the pandemic, or the major first part of the pandemic, but there were 18,000 people laughing and clapping and quoting. 18,000 people saying, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare. 18,000 people quoting it perfectly at the same time was absolutely a highlight of being a movie lover.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'll ever want to watch it again, because it's never going to get taught. That's never going to get taught. But it's such a fantastic movie. It's perfectly paced. Every role is perfectly cast. Robin Wright, oh my God, she's arguably the most beautiful woman in the world at the time.
Yeah,
arguably still the most beautiful woman of
those. Yes, she's definitely up there.
Yeah, but just every single role is note perfect. And if you look at it, I mean, if I remember right, it's like not even 100 minutes long. It's a rather, if I'm remembering,
I don't know what the runtime is. Yeah,
I'll have to look it up real quick. But it's just, the movie is just everything. I can watch it so many times. I can quote it ad infinitum. When I'm watching it, sometimes I can't remember every line.
Yeah.
But an hour and 38 minutes. It's not even 100 minutes. That's how good of a movie it is. It tells a complete story with energy and excitement and drama and romance and all of this stuff, and the kissing.
Yeah. Is it kissing book?
Yeah, is this a kissing book? And Peter Falk, oh man, I actually just watched Wings of Desire 2 nights ago.
Yeah, you were posting about that on Threads.
Yeah, because my dad's from Cleveland. He spoke German before he spoke English. He's like 8th generation Cleveland German. And it's like, okay, well, here's one of the best movies of the 80s, and it's in German for the most part, so he should enjoy it. And he was like, this is the most depressing movie I've ever seen. Not to get sidetracked too much, but just like every movie in the 80s that had Peter Falk, even the bad ones, he just brought an energy that is so unique to him that you can't just help but go with it, whatever he's doing. And
right.
And the thing that was most disappointing to me about Princess Bride is when it opened in theaters in 1987, most listeners won't get this reference, but it opened at the Rio Theater.
Right.
Because in Santa Cruz, there were, for my listeners, a bunch of theaters, and the Rio was like the big theater in town. It sat almost 1,000 people.
It was a single house.
Because it's a single house.
It wasn't a multiplex.
And it's where United Artists, who operated the theater at the time, put the films that were expected to be big. We saw Jedi there. We saw Indiana Jones there. We saw E.T. there.
That's why I saw Empire.
Yeah. The big movies played at the Rio. And opening weekend of Princess Bride, you could hear a pin drop in the theater. There were so few people.
Really?
Yeah, because I was there opening weekend. I usually worked at the Del Mar or the 41st, but they had me at the Rio that weekend because they were expecting it to be huge. Yeah. And then it wasn't. And it took years for the film to catch on home video and stuff. And that, to me, was always the most disappointing part of Princess Bride, was just that the audience, at least in Santa Cruz, and the numbers, if I remember right, it was okay. It wasn't a big hit.
Yeah. I just remember I saw it several times again in its first run, but it was more in, at the Century in Mountain View, and so that's like a 10, I think it was a 10 house theater, multiplex, and those houses were packed when I went and saw it. But
yeah, I mean, the movie did okay. It deserved to be better than okay. And like I said, 900 seat theater, maybe 50 people on the Prime show on Friday night.
That's just crazy.
How is that even possible? Because late September 1987 was not that busy for movies. It should have been.
No, it was not.
Should have been huge, but people finally discovered it. It's a fantastic movie. I don't think anybody listening has not seen it yet. How can you?
Probably not.
Okay, so
my top two now.
Or unless you have more to say about Princess Bride.
No, I don't. Again, I think we've covered Princess Bride pretty well. I think that's my last probably my last popular choice.
Okay.
The last two are ones that are very important to me, me particularly, that I don't really give a flying rat's ass about other people's opinions of them, because they are so integral to my kind of creative impetus, right? So number two is Dragon Slayer, 1981.
Yep.
Directed by Matthew Robbins, starring Peter McNichol, Caitlin Clark, Sir Ralph Richardson, Ian McDiarmid.
Yep.
Phil Tippett did the Go Motion creature effect. It was shot in Wales on location by Derek Van Lint, who did Alien. It was a Disney production released by Paramount, and it directly led to Disney establishing Touchstone Pictures for their more mature fare.
Right.
Because it was so dark, and it was way more adult than the usual Disney stuff. Even their live action material, which in the 70s, I mean, or even earlier than that, you could get a little bit dark. I mean, Island at the Top World, which I still love, is a live action, starring David Hartman. Remember him?
I do remember David Hartman, but I knew
He was a talk show host, and for some reason, he got this leading role. And he would continue to make fun of his acting in that film. But I absolutely love the film itself. It's kind of a pulpy adventure, steampunky kind of thing in the Arctic. And I actually cribbed some of the elements for my Airship Daedalus series. But anyway, that aside, Dragon Slayer, it's dark, it's moody, it's serious, and it's absolutely gorgeous to behold. The dragon was the first time I'd really seen like a wyvern physicality of a creature. So that it's got like bat wings. It doesn't have separate forelimbs.
Right.
And so it's just, and Peter McNichol as a serious, leading man, which I don't think you would ever get again. That might have been his. He in another one.
Well, there's Sophie's Choice with him, and
that's true.
Yeah, and
that's true.
I mean, you're Meryl Streep and Kevin Kline. You're gonna get third billed no matter what.
Yeah,
but he was fantastic in it. The whole seersucker.
Yeah,
thing with in Sophie's Choice, obviously not in Dragon, but
Dragon Slayer.
But it's just like, he was one of those actors that should have been maybe not a leading star, but he should have been. He's like Jelko Ivanek, where he was fantastic in the few lead roles he had, but he somehow got relegated to being a great
bits.
Yeah, to supporting bits because he doesn't look like a leading man.
Right. Exactly. Which is what makes Dragon Slayer so relatable, is because he's a mage's apprentice. He's a wizard's apprentice, and he's not like a physically imposing figure. He's scrawny. He's young. He's kind of dorky and awkward. And I think a lot of people, especially those of us who are watching this at 13 years of age, starting to go through puberty, were like, oh, I can relate to that. So somebody that's thrown into an adult role, without any kind of preparation.
Yeah, I mean that's why I related to it when I saw it in 1981. It's just that it felt like this is a character that could be me.
Yeah.
If I was in that time frame and there were real dragons, so of course. I know dragons are real. I know that.
Well, and I love Ian McDiarmid, the priest in there that gets absolutely fried by Vermithrax. And he's got this great line as he's trying to show his bravado and cast the devil into the pit, and he says, "Get thee down." And to this day, my brother and I will always finish that line with "Be thou funky."
Yeah. I mean, it's fun having friends and siblings that you can just take these things from your childhood and convert them into adulthood, and it's great for you. It might not make sense to anybody else, but you're having fun with it with your friends, and it's
the secret knock to the clubhouse. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that my wife and I, one of our favorite sayings is from Bad Santa, and it's like, well, they can't all be winners. So if it's we're watching a movie, a highly anticipated movie, and it's not as good as we were hoping it to be, well, they can't all be winners.
Can't all be winners.
And I can't say that to anybody else and have them understand what I'm talking about specifically.
Right.
But with my wife and I, it's been shorthand for 20 years for, oh well. Okay, so here we are. Number one.
Yep.
And
what this is going to be.
Well, depending on your definition, I mean, in a sense, I'm thinking it might be the Road Warrior.
Because I don't consider Road Warrior fantasy. To me, is apocalyptic sci-fi.
Okay, because I don't really because I consider it more fantasy than sci-fi. specifically because, well, for me, it's like, this is probably going to be the reality in 50 or 100 years. I don't really see it as fiction. I see it as science fact before the fact.
Right. Well, science fiction is just kind of
No, I get where you're coming from, but for me, as much as I love Road Warrior but for me it's not, I don't see it as fiction. I just see it as fact that hasn't happened yet.
yeah. Well, I mean that's the whole post-apocalypse genre.
Okay, so then number one, I'm gonna guess the second time I'm gonna guess Time Bandits.
No.
Really? Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, I can't believe I actually stopped.
I feel like Joey Gallo right now, striking out.
Okay. Because it's not on a lot of people's, I feel like it's not a lot of people's, most watched, but it's 1982's Conan the Barbarian.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's, John Milius with a script by Milius and Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
It's, Arnold Schwarzenegger in one of his first starring roles. It's James Earl Jones, Sandal Bergman, Jerry Lopez, the professional surfer. Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
Mako. Production designed by Ron Cobb, who did Alien and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and was originally slated to direct E.T. It was shot by Duke Callahan, who did Jeremiah Johnson. So it's, cinematically, it is gorgeous.
Yep.
It actually does the source material justice.
I've never read the source material, so I'll have to trust you on that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I actually came to the source material after I saw the film, and I didn't get into the character of Conan until much later. Marvel Comics had a Conan adaptation in the 70s.
Right.
And some of my friends had the Miko action figure, but I didn't really go on to Conan until much later and started getting more into the pulp literature of the 20s and 30s. And so Robert E. Howard, became a destination on the list of those what I call the old masters of pulp.
Right. Yeah, it's just, I remember when we were growing up, we used to go to Atlanta's Fantasy World. At a legendary comic book store that's featured in Lost Boys.
Yes.
And I would get, of all my comics, I would constantly see Conan, the comic, on in the front shelf, like the way that the store is set up. There was the most important shelf was right across the street, right across the way from the cashier station. And then there were all these other books hanging on wires and, in bins and stuff like that. And I always saw Conan, but first I never got into Conan. And actually, to be completely honest, I still haven't. I know I probably should as an 80s kid, but I never did. But I would, because I was collecting Star Wars, Rom the Space Knight,
right,
and a bunch of. I was more of a science fiction than fantasy kid.
Yeah.
So that's why I took the science fiction lit class, because it's like, oh, that's an easy A.
Yeah. Well, they didn't offer a fantasy lit class. It was like we covered a multitude of genres in that sci-fi lit class.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Conan, it's an amazing narrative. The director's cut is even better because it solves an issue with the end kind of falling flat.
Right.
I really, really love the director's cut. And honestly, listening to the commentary track with Milius and Schwarzenegger is worth the price of admission alone. It is hilarious.
Wow, I mean, Milius alone probably would be hilarious.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, talk about being absolutely freaking a mad genius, emphasis on the mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to be completely honest. I am surprised that Time Bandits is not on your list.
It would be in my honorable mentions, and I did love it back in the day. I saw it again multiple times in the theater because we had, a little bit less to distract ourselves at the time.
You saw it at the Aptos Twin, I presume?
I did.
Yeah. That's where,
again and again.
yeah, that's where I saw it. I actually hadn't moved to Santa Cruz yet. My mom was living there with my stepdad, but I hadn't moved to Santa Cruz yet. But when I came to visit them in 1981 for Thanksgiving, they were like, "What do you want to do?" And it's like, "Oh, let's go. There's a movie theater literally on the other side of the freeway."
Mm-hmm.
And I loved going to the Aptos Twins when we were living in Aptos because I could literally walk across the train trestle and the theater's right there. I didn't have to go all the way down to Seacliff and back over again.
Right.
Instead of walking a mile and a half to the theater, I could walk 900 feet.
Exactly. And they had the larger house, and then they had a smaller house.
Yeah.
And you could go to a lot of parents did this on Saturdays. They would run like Disney bills that would be a feature. They would do like a Davy Crockett episode or some nature documentary, and a couple of shorts. And you could sit through the entire program multiple times on one admission with the refillable popcorn tub. I mean, it was a budget parents' wet dream because you could drop your kids off again unsupervised.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
And that theater, like I can tell you, I saw Tron there.
Oh yeah.
And on that big huge screen, that was probably, I think that was the second biggest theater in Santa Cruz at the time.
Yeah.
And now it's
I saw Star Trek Wrath of Khan there.
So did I.
And in the big house.
In the big house.
Yep.
Yeah. I've grown up in that. I am going to do a Santa Cruz in the 80s episode someday. Of the movies that were made there. I've kind of talked about it a little bit in various episodes, but growing up in Santa Cruz in the 80s with all of it was a unique place.
It was a unique place. It was kind of a magical time. Very, again, and I kind of addressed this in my foreword in the first Calico Kids novel, is that, I don't want to be saccharine about it. I don't want to make readers think, oh yeah, the 80s were great, because they often weren't. There were a lot of problems that we were dealing with, and we found ourselves escaping and being in our heads a lot of the time.
Right.
And so, hopefully people will get that, take away from that, in what you do in looking back at that decade and the film and the various art forms, and what I do in my writing is very much the same thing. It's just kind of presenting a take on the world that was, without trying to necessarily put a polish on it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I'm trying to do with the show is not be nostalgic. I mean, sometimes you just can't help it. How you feel about some films, I feel about Tapeheads, is I don't care who the hell, I don't care how much hate the film gets. It's stupid, goofy fun. It's, when it came out in 1988, it was right up my alley because, we all wanted to be filmmakers. And here's a movie about two wannabe filmmakers who kind of stumble into something. And, but it was filled with punk rock cameos, and it was filled with, Junior Walker and Sam Moore's The Swanky I don't care what anybody says about this movie. I love this movie, and I will never stop defending it for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. It's special to you.
Yeah. But I recognize that my love of that movie is now specifically nostalgia.
Yeah.
But it's still a stupid, fun movie now.
Yeah.
35 years later.
Yeah. Well, and also keep in mind that the actual definition of nostalgia is, there's a pain element to it. There's a wistfulness. It's not just a fond recollection. There's a heartache that relates to it.
Right. So I have a short top 5 of my favorites. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of the same criteria: quotability, enjoyability, rewatchability. Just really quick, I've got heavy metal.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the soundtrack, the animation, the fact that this awesome movie had to be made in Canada with all of the Canadian voice, Eugene Levy, John Candy, and like half of SCTV does voices in the movie. Just the way that it brought, and I'd never read Heavy Metal magazine before I saw the movie.
Oh, okay.
And and so I kind of got into Heavy Metal Magazine after the fact, but the movie itself was just so fun. And every time it played at the Sash Mill, in repertory, I'd go every single time because it was just so much fun. Time Bandits, of course. I know that Terry Gilliam is canceled now, but Time Bandits was literally like life changing in terms of how he bent all these genres together and made it work so well. And then you've got David Warner, from going from Time After Time to Time Bandits to Tron. I mean, he was just one of the great bad guys of the 80s, and he always made the movies absolutely fun.
Yes.
And then sticking with fantasy in animation, The Secret of Nim.
Yeah.
Which Don Bluth.
Another 1982.
Another 1982. Because it wasn't as devastating as Watership Down, which is
right.
But in terms of the way that it told the story in animation, that was both kid friendly, but also had something for super dark, but still somehow kid friendly. That it was, it's just hard to describe how much I love animation to this day because of Watership Down and The Secret of Nim, and the way that it used, anthropomorphic animals to tell their stories. It's just magical. That's all I can really say about it. Number 4, Gremlins.
Yeah,
because it's Gremlins, man. There's another movie that is just absolutely quotable and just fun to watch every single time. There's always new things to see or you forgot about, and it's just so fun to see Hoyt Axton just be an actor instead of being he usually played cowboys or Western guys in his movies, and here he's just playing a normal dad, and he's so good at it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going off of the ones that you didn't name, and the last one for me is already mentioned, The Wings of Desire.
Okay.
Because it is the most, for me, it's one of the most life affirming movies I've ever seen, because here, we didn't know it at the time, but we're at the end of, East and West Germany before reunification, and there was this malaise, but it was the way that vendors presented it was just so full of joy that this angel who has, literally eternal life is willing to give everything up for a young lady who he's only quote unquote known for a couple days. And how it goes through, the streets of West Berlin and even a little bit of East Berlin. I still can't figure out how he and Bruno Ganz didn't get shot by the East Germans on the other side of the wall in the dead zone. But and Solveig de Martin was just heavenly as the trapeze artist. It's so sad that she died so young, but I can watch Wings of Desire literally monthly and never get tired of it, even though, and then you got Nick Cave playing a couple songs, and the story literally stops so you could listen to Nick Cave be Nick Cave in his earliest days. And, and it's like, if there was ever a guy that could have been the next Tom Waits, it was Nick Cave in the late 80s before he, and to a certain point, he still could be. But it's just that I love that this movie took time to just document what life was like in that time frame without knowing that whole world would be gone in 2 years.
Yeah, that it's a gorgeous urban fantasy with this interesting prescience of what was coming around the corner.
Yeah, and then Peter Falk doing his thing with when he's talking to Yeah, but the scene where he's like getting the coffee and it's like, I can't see you, but I know you're there, and he gives this speech, and it's just like, my God, how did he, how was he just relegated to just being seen as Columbo? I know the movie,
Yeah.
like actually leans on his being best known as Columbo, and people making fun of him for being Columbo, but just his just the way that he just is presented, and how Vendors just allows him to be. And I just learned that he wasn't even in the movie originally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that Vendors had started shooting the movie, and he had an idea for a character, but he didn't know what to do. And one of his friends said, "You should get Peter Falk. Everybody in the world knows who he is because of Columbo." And basically, so he contacted Falk, and Falk was like, "I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Let's do it." And then he went to West Berlin, and a lot of the things that he does in the movie is literally like recreations of things he did in West Berlin while he was there. When when they can't find him for hours on the film set, he actually did that in real life. That he wasn't needed for several hours, so he just went wandering around West Berlin,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
they found him, and then it's time for his scene. They couldn't find him for like 6 hours, and he was just sitting in a coffee shop sketching people. So like all of Peter Falk's role was basically him being him while experiencing the making of this movie. Um, it was all of it was pretty much completely improv. None of it was actually written by Vendors. It was just like, let's just see what he does, and which makes his performance all that more incredible because it's not scripted. It's just they're just coming up with this stuff on the spur of the moment, and
Yeah.
and of course, that leaves off films like Beetlejuice and
Sure. Yeah.
and Bill and Ted, which is, definitely
Right.
fantasy. So there's a lot of, I mean, there were a lot of great, of course, the Ghostbusters movies. You might even put Kiki's Delivery Service in there.
Yeah.
There's so many.
There are so many, and to be honest, Ed, I totally even gloss over adding in any animation into my list at all, and I'm kicking myself now because Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta collaborated on a feature in 1983 called Fire and Ice.
Yep.
Which is, it's kind of a typical sword and sorcery, loincloths,
But it's done in the Ralph Bakshi way. Yeah, it's beautiful.
really gorgeous.
It's absolutely beautiful because, you know, his movies in the 70s and 80s, when he was doing all that rotoscoping, trying to bridge live action and animation, was like Wizards was
Yeah.
was just, but American Pop is my favorite movie of his, but you wouldn't call that fantasy.
Right.
So uh so that was a fantastic list,
Yeah.
and I greatly appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely. It
And
was a lot of fun.
it was a lot of fun. I hope it was fun, half as fun for the audience as it was for us. Because, again, we've got that familiarity that our audience doesn't have with you.
Right.
And
Right.
and there's so many things, our lives in the early 80s, having our fake band that kind of spurred on like several musical things, like Beach becoming the first person to ever put music on the internet back before most people had even heard of the internet. I mean, the way that our lives have
Formative.
yeah, and
All of it was formative.
yeah, it was incredibly fun because one of the best things about friendship is not just having people to hang out with, but taking things from your friends that inform you as a person. I said it on Threads a couple weeks ago. I honestly have no idea who I would be without you and Beach and Rhodes.